them praise dancers. I tell you, if you can watch them minister and it don't mess with you, we gonna open the door of the church in a minute. You need to come on down here and meet Jesus. That don't ring your bell. Something wrong with you. Mark 5:25 says, and a certain woman which had an issue of blood 12 years, when she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind and touched his garment. I shall be whole. Flower fade, the grass is going to wither, but the word of God shall not return unto him void. I want to tag this text for a few minutes and talk about I just can't give up now. I just can't give up now. Pray with me, please, ushers. You may be seated. When one reads the Gospel of Mark, it is almost as if you need to fasten your seat belts, because it is almost as if Mark seen an urgency in the ministry of the Master. His gospel, though the briefest of the four, packs in it so much for us. Mark finds himself bunching people together. Well, he says they brought all the sick to Jesus. He uses words like immediately and straightway. He interrupts stories to tell other stories, as if he was sitting, as it were, at the reporter's desk and was giving a story, and would, in the midst of that story, while he had you hanging on the story he was telling, Mark would take you swiftly to another scene and say, here is breaking news. Any help in this house? And it was as if you were following him from chapter 4 to this moment he was initially in forward teaching. Then he placed the disciples on the ship and said to them, let us go to the other side. And Mark tells us that they were caught in a violent storm. It was all right as long as the boat was in the water, but now water was getting in the boat. They awakened Jesus and cried unto him in desperation out of fear, and say unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish? And he, in no hurry, because he's never late, walks on the top side of the boat, looks at elements of nature, and speaks, two words. He says, peace be still. And the Bible said that it was a great calm. I know in the text it says he said, peace be still, but it took 3 words in the English to take care of what he said in the Greek. He said, be muzzled. I wish I had a witness here. He told the wind to hush your fuss, and it was a great calm. They make it to the other side into the Gadarenes and get off the boat, and lo and behold, there's a crazy man. Anybody gonna help me preach? And he was so messed up until when Jesus asked him his name, he said, my name is Legion, because we are many. He said to the demons in that man, today you got to get out of him. And he cast them out, and they went into the hogs, and the hogs said, before we live with demons like you, we'll commit suicide. Ran down the slope and drowned themselves, and the man was clothed in his right mind. And Mark said the people done something very strangely when the man was clothed in his right mind. When he was cutting himself and living in the graveyard, they were fine, and now they're afraid of him. And they said to Jesus, you need to get out of our town. The man said, Jesus, if you leaving, I want to go with you. He said, no, I need you to go home and tell of the good things the Lord has done for you. And they get back on the boat, go back across the same sea they had just come across. And they get on the other shore, and the Bible said that the crowd was waiting for them. I don't know, maybe one of the disciples told them that we won't be gone long, or they got word he was heading back. But when they got back to the other side, there was a crowd waiting on them. And Mark says that in that crowd there was a desperate man by the name of Jairus. And Jairus, when Jesus landed, he came running. Mark said he fell at his feet and worshiped him and begged Jesus to come and go home with him. Wouldn't it be great if other folk today would fall at his feet, worship him, and then beg him to go home with them? And the text said that Jesus agreed to go with Jairus to his house, because at his house he had a daughter who was sick unto death. And he didn't know whether she was going to die before he got back or live till he returned with Jesus, but he was willing to take a chance. And this story of this father pleading for his child grips you and hold your attention very tightly. And you want to see what's going to unfold as they begin on their way to Jairus' house. It's like anticipation has come to a fever pitch, and you just want to know, is he going to get there in time? Is he going to make it? Will he get there and she be dead? What's really going to turn out? And I'm sure that Jairus' blood pressure is up, and his heartbeat is increased, and he's trying to walk off but not leave Jesus on the way. I almost want to literally drag him to his house, and you just on the tiptoes of anticipation, trying to hurry up and get to Jairus' house. And all of a sudden, with this crowd thronging him, and Luke uses the word in his text, said the crowd was choking Jesus. They was just pressed upon him on every hand, and they were trying to hurriedly move him to help Jairus, to get him over to Jairus' house. And all of a sudden, Jesus stops, as if somehow now he has forgotten the request of the man who's begging for him to come home with him. And his daughter is at death's door. And Jesus all of a sudden seemingly is unconcerned about what's happening with Jairus. He stops and he raises a question. If I had time, I'd talk about it for a minute. He asks his disciples, with Luke saying the folk they were like up in the club. They were all up on him, choking him. He couldn't turn for folk bumping into him. And he asked the disciples, who touched me? And it's almost, as Mark says, breaking news. He breaks in on a potential miracle at Jairus' house and introduces us not only to a desperate man, but a desperate woman. I need to talk about her for a minute, because I think that there's somebody in here today who purposed in their heart when they left home that if the preacher don't have a word for me today, I'm done. I can't take no more. I've gone as far as I can go. I done tied the knot at the end of the rope, and I'm still losing my grip. I've had enough. I've had it up to here. I ain't gonna keep going through this, putting up with this, and I'm just gonna wave the white flag of surrender. Somebody in here, you're done with it. You've had as much of it as you can handle. Every time you got knocked down, you've gotten up. But now you just don't have no get up in you. I've come to tell you that you can't afford to give up now. I know the situation have literally sucked all the air out of you. Ain't no, can I say it like that? Ain't no, well, just in case there isn't any more. There ain't no drive left in you. Just being pushed around by life. You know, it's one thing to have troubles. Because I got news for you. It's a struggle from the cradle to the grave. We come here struggling to get into this world. And then we have to struggle and fight as long as we are in the world. And see, it's one thing when you're struggling, it's private. You know when don't nobody else know what you're going through. It ain't gotten out into the open yet. I'm sure that when this woman's issue initially started, she was able to cover it and hide it because it was so personal. And it was so private, it wasn't something that you discussed with anybody else. And so for a few days, she was able to cover her pain. You know how it is when you're hurting, but don't nobody else know you're hurting. So when you leave the house, you put on a smile. And you hum a little tune and you have a little pep in your step, as if all is well, when really you know the bottom has already fallen out and the walls are caving in and the roof is about to tumble down. But don't nobody know how bad it is right now because it's private. You ever had a private struggle? I mean, didn't nobody know how far you were behind, but you and your creditors, it was private. Didn't nobody know how hard you prayed yesterday to get to work and back because the light was on the day before. Anybody? But all that was private. Didn't nobody know you didn't go out to lunch, not because you were not hungry, but you didn't have no money to buy the lunch that you went out for. So you sat in your cubicle and said, I'm not eating today. It was private. You ever been where the lights were off, but didn't nobody know because they didn't live with you, and so it was daylight, so that was private. Struggles, they are real, and but a lot of time we can cover them and act like all is well. Hey, ain't nothing wrong. I'm good, and keep it private. And for a long time, Jackie, she was able to keep it private, but her condition didn't get any better. But the text says she didn't have only no lights, but now she has no water and no gas. And now all of a sudden folks say, you know, I passed by Hawk House and it was just 9 o'clock and it was black dark. Well, good. I went by there at 8:30 and it was black dark. I went by there at 8. You reckon the lights off? Tell you what I'm doing. I'm gonna drive by there early in the morning when they ought to have lights on. Good. I went by there at 5:30. It was black dark up in there. I don't believe they got no lights. And he called me and asked me for a ride. Well, I gave him a ride yesterday. Well, I gave him a ride the day before. You reckon you something wrong with the car? Ain't no, child, ain't nothing wrong with the car. He just may not have no gas money. Now, all of a sudden, her issue grows worse, and she no longer can hide it because of the ceremonial law. The condition she had caused her not to be able to worship. So now all of a sudden, it's bad enough. I'm struggling, I'm straining, I'm catching it on every hand, and now I can't even go to church. And then she opens up about her condition. She went to folk that she thought could help her. She went to doctors. And all they relieved her of was her money. The last doctor she saw said, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. This is just something you got to live with. Ain't no cure. It ain't going to get no better. It ain't going to change. You just got to, pull up your bootstraps and just live with it. I come to tell somebody here, don't live with stuff that God sent by just as a guest. Can I say it like this? Trouble won't last always. Listen, somewhere in the night has to relinquish its host and hold on my life, because day is coming. Look at your neighbor and tell them day is coming. Weeping may endure for the night, but in the morning, I thought I had somebody. In the morning there comes joy. And Luke said, Mark said rather, she went to the doctors and they just said, it got to the point where now all of a sudden, folks that used to speak to her are avoiding her. Folks that used to be tight with her won't even talk to her. You know how it is when folks holler about we ride or die, we down like 4 flat tires and I got your back and all that stuff, and then all hell break loose in your life and they don't act like they even know you. Anybody, am I talking to anybody here? All of a sudden everything is breaking bad in your house and they act like you're going to catch some if they hang out with you, and so every time you call they busy. The woman's personal struggle now is public, is out in the open. And there's nothing more painful than to have a problem that everybody's chewing on. You know how when you're in the throes and the clutches of pain, perils, and predicaments, how other folk just know how you ought to respond. Child. That would mean that what I would do it. And child, I wouldn't take all that, and I wouldn't put up with this, and I wouldn't put up with that. And they used to say it behind your back. And now they say it to your face and call you crazy. You just crazy for staying there. You just crazy for putting up with that. And then you got to go home to whatever it is that you're going through. Doctor done told you ain't no cure. You just got to live with it. How do you live with it? Whatever. I'd be here till in the morning if I called the roll, but how do you handle it? When there's no strength in you to fight it no longer, stand up to it any longer. Every turn you take seems to get you deeper in the hole. You've been put the shovel down. It's almost as if somebody else digging the hole for you. Now for y'all who are missing this morning, I'll get you next time. Put on there September 8, 2019, file it. Because if you ain't been at this address, you're on your way. See, sometimes we sit up and we act like we are immune to trouble, but the truth of the matter is we catching it right then. Ain't nobody guessing if y'all done broke up. He moved out. It's public. How you deal with it when it's all out in the open, when the open folk have open season on your struggles? Child, the doctor told her, I know it's true because I work in the office. I looked at the record. It's no longer private. It's public. This woman's condition made her the folks didn't like her no more. You want to find out who really love you? Get caught up in a storm. Get assaulted by they say, he said, I saw them. And your friends will thin out quickly. Can you imagine? Can you imagine her? She's hearing the rumors. He's coming back. He's coming back. He's coming back. And she's got to muster up enough gumption to get up and get out here in the midst of the crowd, trying to conceal her condition as much as she can. She came to church anyway. She put on an extra dose of mascara. He came anyhow. He just walked in the door anyway when he knew what he was going through. He just got out of rehab and almost relapsed, and he still came to church. She's in the crowd. Not only has her struggles become public now, but they've separated her from the public. You know how it used to be the life of the party? They didn't do nothing without you. Now everything you hear about is after. Let me see, can I go right down through here and help somebody? You know how it is when you sitting up wondering what everybody is responding to on the post, and you don't know the backstory to the post, so you can't really say nothing. So you just sitting there in silence watching the screen, and everybody dropping this and dropping that, and 100 here, and all these loves and all this stuff, and you wondering what they talking about. What? And then somebody say about last night, and somebody come back with 3 hearts and an explosion, and somebody dancing, and you like, last night? I know this crew ain't went nowhere last night without me. And then somebody, always got to let the cat out the bag. They can't hold on it. They drop a couple pictures in there, and and all of a sudden you realize you wasn't at the table. Folks will leave you like you have a plague when you got problems. And it will be so heartbreaking until you almost want to just quit. The question is still on the table: who touched me? The crowd is stopped, and the disciples are almost embarrassed. I'm almost there. They're almost as embarrassed because Jesus had a tendency to suggest stuff that he didn't have it all together all the time. Can I get 3 real people to help me out? If you were hanging with Jesus back then too, you've been looking at Jesus kind of cross-eyed too on some of the stuff he told them folk to do when he told them to do it. No wine. He said fill up water pots. So, man, ain't no way you can pass off water for wine. He said, I ain't asked you to pass off nothing. I told you to fill up something. And it was almost as if when they filled them to the rim, he looked at the water pots, they blushed, and the water turned to wine. He said, now draw out some. I mean, come on, be real. Hanging with Jesus would cause you to think that, hey, he ain't all there. Show up at the funeral 4 days late, repast over, everybody gone, talking about where my friend Lazarus at. And said to them, show me where you're laid in, man. And then he calls Lazarus from the dead. Do I have a witness here? And so he asked who touched him, as if somehow he felt something that didn't nobody else feel. And so the disciples basically, they try to, how when you got somebody that ain't quite all there, you won't try to let nobody know they ain't all there, and you try to cover up for them. Well, now if you don't look at me like that again, I think you're the one that ain't all there. And so they basically says to him, say, Master, what you mean? Who touched you? Seeing that you're throned by the crowd. He said, I didn't ask you who bumped into me. I asked you who touched me. See, that's why some of y'all bring your burdens here and you go back with them because you're just bumping into Jesus. You just bump into the pew. You just bump into church. You don't come here. You're afraid to be touched by what's happening in here. I watch some of y'all when folk be overcome by the Spirit and they get involved and give themselves over to the Holy Ghost. You start moving like, don't put none of that on me. I don't want none of that on me. As if somehow, if it touches you, it's going to change you. And 4 or 5 of y'all be better off to just grab a hold and say, touch me. Let something happen. Do something to me, Jesus. But most of us, we are too cute to touch the Lord. And Jesus said, I didn't ask you who bumped into me. I asked you who touched me. Let me explain something to y'all boys. Somebody grabbed me, and when they grabbed me with faith. Do I have a witness here? Sometimes in your life, to turn things around, you got to speak things that are not as if they were. Can I get 5 of y'all to help me here? Sometimes you got to tell yourself you're a winner when you know you're losing. Sometimes you got to tell yourself I'm the head when everybody else calling you to tail. Sometimes you got to tell yourself I'm up when you know you've been knocked down. Every now and then you got to speak things that are not as if they were. This woman said, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I've tried everything. Yes, if I but may touch the hem of his garment. I know he suggests that he's of some kind of priestly order. I don't want to defile him. I don't want to make him ceremonially unclean. But I've heard about him. I've heard of his power, how he can speak and withered hands will be straightened out. I've heard of his power. Anybody heard about Jesus' power? How he can spit on the ground, anoint a blind man's eyes, and the blind man can say, one thing I know, that whereas I was blind, now I see. And so there's almost as if there's a stillness in the air. Everybody whispering, why did he stop? Why did he stop? What's wrong? Oh Lord, this Jesus thing. I told you can't be trusted. This man's daughter about to die, and he up here talking to them disciples of his, and they trying to calm him down and keep from getting out. He ain't all there, y'all. You remember he was preaching one time, and they said, Jesus, your mama and them, they outside. They want to carry you home. And he said, who is my mama? And who's my father? But he that doeth the will of my sister and brother, but he that do the will of my father. You ain't going to tell me that if you did with Jesus that you just know he's all there all the time. He wasn't all there when he saved you. Come on, come here. And no way you could be as wretched as you were and you had been Jesus and you'd have saved you. I need 5 saints in the house who know that you ain't all that, even though you act like it, that you know it was grace and mercy that saved you. That's why I say I don't know why Jesus loved me. I don't know why he sacrificed his life, but I'm glad that he did. This woman struggles now. They're public. Everybody knows her business. The DUI been posted in the paper. Everybody know your business. You ain't clocking in. They saw security take your badge, they escort you out. Everybody know your business. They happen to be driving down your street when the repo man pulled up with the sled and put your car on and drove off, so they know it's gone. You can't tell them it's in the shop. They know your business. They read the eviction notice on the apartment before you got there. They know that you've been preacher man. And they are avoiding you like the plague because they're afraid you're going to ask them for something. Crowd is standing almost hushed, looking at Jesus about like y'all looking at me. And he said, I asked who touched me. Down to my last point here. The woman's persistent pursuit of a solution to her personal pain. That's all I came to tell 5 of y'all in here. I'm number 6 because I feel like quitting sometime too. I just can't give up now. Nobody told me that it'll be this hard, but I still can't give up now. And you see, when you decide to do right, that seems like when things get the worst in your life, when you out there hustling and cutting corners and cheating, it seemed like you had. But now all of a sudden you're trying to do it legal and right and correct, and it seems like you're really catching them. Am I preaching anybody in here? And you wonder, what have I done to make this race so hard to run? Why me, Lord? Why me? Out of all the women in the world, why do I have this issue? Out of all the men in the world, why do I have this problem? Out of all the folk that go to Union Baptist, why I'm the one dragging this heavy load? And I've come today to tell you that sometime the Lord, He will allow, struggles in our lives. He will allow problems to come to our address. As the preacher told us this morning, that everything that happens to us is not always bad luck. Every now and then the Lord will allow life to go sideways on us. Every now and then we can awaken from a slumber with a pain that will not go away. Every now and then, no matter how much you budget, you still come up short. Have I got a witness in here now? You gave them your heart and they took it and wiped their feet on it. Do I have a witness in here who know what I'm talking about? You turn the other cheek and they slap you on that one too. You wonder sometimes, what have I done that makes the race so hard to run? But I've come today to tell you that if you can but just get to Jesus, He will turn it around. If you can get to Jesus, He can make your midnights turn in the middays. Good morning here now. Good afternoon, y'all. But the Bible says that the woman decided she'd come too far to turn around. She had, yes Lord, nothing to lose because she done lost all her money at the doctor office. She done lost all of her pride because the people know her business. She said, I don't know, I may not get this chance again. I believe what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to Jesus somehow. If I can get 15 of y'all in here who can be your witness that life has a way of putting you back against the wall. Life has a way of causing you to cry tears in the midnight hour. If anybody in here know that you can have money in the bank and still toss and turn all night long? Is anybody in here that know all of your bills can be paid and your heart can be broken in a million pieces? Is there anybody in here that know on the surface all can seem to be well, but deep down beneath the skin trouble is on every hand? The woman said, well, I don't know, I may not get to the front of the line, but as long as I can get to Jesus, I need somebody in here with some crazy faith, somebody in here with some I don't care faith to lose all pretense, because What did they tell you here now? My mama told me, boy, if your belly is empty and you're hungry and you don't have nothing, you ain't got no pride. Talking about my pride won't let me. I wish I had somebody here. I'm closing here now, but I listened to a man just the other day living in the Bahamas, and he was giving a report to the reporter, and the reporter said, sir, I heard that your son had cerebral palsy and that you had to carry him on your back. The man said, let me tell you what really happened. He said, we were in the house and my sister-in-law knocked on my door because the wind had blew her roof off, and she came in and the wind kept on blowing, and all of a sudden we lost the roof on my house, and my son has cerebral palsy. I put him on my back, and when I stepped in the water was up to my chin. The reporter said, tell me the truth that you're blind. He said, yes I am. He said, I'm blind. I got my son with cerebral palsy on my back, but my sister-in-law with the eyes that guided me in the storm. She said, well, how far did you have to go? He said, we went about 5 minutes, but it seemed like longer than that, and we made it to the neighbor's house and rode out the storm. The man said, if you don't mind, can I tell you one more thing? He said, well, we got children, me and my ex-wife, and we raised them, and we've always taken care of ourselves. But that man said, I ain't never had to ask nobody for nothing. I've always made it. He said, but now I need help. Or y'all don't hear me. Every now and then, life will knock you down. It'll knock you out. It'll put you in a position where you got to admit, I need help. Is anybody in here that know every now and then you have to look towards the hill of what's coming your help? All of my help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. Ain't he all right? That man said, if y'all can send help, I can receive help. He had no pride because he had lost everything that he had, but he still had his son, and he still had hope that Jesus is going to turn it around. If I can get 3 more of y'all who know that you know you've been down, and the Lord pick you up, and you ain't ashamed to be a witness that the Lord, he brought you out. Didn't he do it? Didn't he die? The Bible said that this woman, she pressed her way. If you ain't too mean to help me, look at somebody and tell them, press your way. I know it's hard to keep on pressing. I know it's rough to keep on pressing. Grace, do you hear me? Is not given to the swift. Oh, thank you, Holy Ghost. Not the battle to the strong. But if you hold on and hold out, God will only do it. He'll make a way somehow. That woman standing, yes, Lord, behind Jesus, she spoke up and said, Eli, who touched you, Lord? It's been an uphill journey, but I made it, and I grabbed the hold to your garment, and something happened to the woman. I wish I had 5 of y'all in here who could just grab a hold to Jesus. Something will happen to you. When it happened, she said, all of a sudden, I feel better. Mark said, immediately, do you hear me? Right then, quicker than now, she caught a hold to Jesus' robe, and Jesus caught a hold to her faith. There was a fair exchange. She gave him faith. She gave him faith. She gave him faith, and he gave her healing. If I had 2 people in here know that with God all things are possible. Lord have mercy. You got to trust in the Lord. Jesus says to the woman, your faith has made you whole. Not only did I heal your body, but I redeemed your soul because you've been changed. Even anybody in the house who's been through the storm and the rain, and you made it, and you ain't ashamed to join us and be your witness in your own way. Give God praise for bringing you out on the tide. He'll make a way out of no way. Anybody done tried him, ain't he all right? Look down your road because I'm going to ask you to do something. Give them quiet folk a chance to move. I want somebody in here with some radical faith. Somebody in here with some real faith. Somebody in here that's been down and God picked you up. Somebody in here that had a heavy load but you done laid your burden down. Somebody in here that's been crying but you ain't gonna cry no more. I need you to give God glory. Bless his name. Ain't he all right? Ain't he all right? The door. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus, for not giving up on me.